Hi. Honorable speakers, honorable members, because of the sheer depth and breadth of this port, it has the potential to reorganize the world's shipping networks by becoming a transshipment hub in Africa. Transshipment hubs are ports that allow large vessels that are unable to access destined ports of call due to their size. There are only 5 transshipment hubs globally, and the Port of Lamu has the potential, honorable members, of becoming the 6th. If we remain focused on our development agenda, this will become a reality sooner than later. There is another strategic niche in the Port of Lamu that is also futuristic. This port is placed right in the middle of the manufacturing hub of the Asia continent in the east and the heart of consumption in the west. The distance, honorable members, for example, between Shanghai, the manufacturing hub of the east, and Rotterdam, a major consumption port in the west, is approximately 12,000 nautical miles. But the distance between Rotterdam and Lamu is only 6,000 nautical miles. If we were to make the coastal region an outsourced manufacturing hub for Western products, the Port of Lamu has the potential to cut the price of these products by half. And this would be based purely on shipping costs, because the Port of Lamu is half the distance to the west compared to the Port of Shanghai. If we are to see the Port of Lamu through these futuristic lenses, we will exploit our geographical advantages to make an imprint on global trade. Another big push investment that we have made in support of regional trade through our ports is the expansion of the Kipevo oil refinery and oil terminal. For 128 years, Kenya has served the 5 countries of the region using only one oil berth at the Kipevo oil terminal. This single oil berth could only handle 1 vessel at a time, and for the most part, it took 1 vessel days to offload its fuels. This meant that other vessels in the queue to offload had to wait, incurring huge demurrage charges and penalties by oil marketers. The resultant cost of these inefficiencies are borne by the Kenyan consumer, which overall makes our economy uncompetitive. This year alone, we lost an average of 1 billion shillings in the first 4 months in demurrage at the old Kipevo oil terminal. To tear down the barriers that make our country uncompetitive, we have now put in place a new oil terminal that I shall be opening soon, that will accommodate up to 4 vessels at a time, and instead of taking a whole day of loading fuel, each of the 4 vessels will take 5 hours to offload their fuel cargo. This means that every terminal will have the capacity to handle over 20 vessels a day. Put differently, if the old terminal handled 300 fuel vessels per year on average, the new terminal has the capacity to handle 7,300 vessels annually. Coupled with the improved transportation system connecting Kenya with its neighbors, the expanded capacity will boost our regional trade, as well as remove the cost of demurrage and penalties that the Kenyan consumer has to pay. Mr. Speaker, one of my administration's key priorities has also been to revive state undertakings that have been designated as dead capital. I have done this as part of our big push investment because the utility of these state undertakings could not be allowed to go to waste. To increase the speed of reviving this dead capital, I elected to use the Kenya Defense Forces because of their unity of command, military efficiency, and reasonable pricing. As an example, after KDF took over the Kenya Meat Commission, they turned it around in just a few months. Whereas previously, it took farmers 4 years paid, they are now paid in 72 hours. KMC has resuscitated the outlets that KMC have, collecting today approximately 1 million shillings every day. Previously, this outlet collected 8,000 shillings daily. Mujiulize hiyo pesa ingine ilikuwa inaenda wapi? This 1 million translates to 30 million every month and Kenya shillings 3.6 billion annually in just one outlet. Before September 20th, such revenue would have been impossible because slaughtering was limited to a few or no animals in a month. To enhance further the profitability of KMC, we have linked it to another dead capital that my administration has revived, the meter gauge railway from Nairobi to Nanyuki, which has been revived under the KDF. The KMC is now using it to transport more than 200 animals weekly. Another aspect of the KMC re-engineering supply chain is a relationship with the Wasinyiro South Development Authority. This authority has a tannery and leather factory, which the KMC has been supplying with hides and skins. Although the factory is still not yet complete, it has so far produced about 840,000 square feet of finished leather, partly from KMC supplies. And once complete, it is expected to produce over 1.2 million square feet of finished leather per year. Apart from the revival of KMC, the Nairobi-Nanyuki Railway, in partnership with the Kenya Railway Corporation and KDF, has revamped the 217-kilometer Nairobi-Kisumu Railway, a railway that had been abandoned for over 2 decades. But today, it now boasts 18 stations, 46 bridges, and 27 viaducts. Together with the revival of the port of Kisumu, revamping the railway line is meant to enhance connectivity with our neighboring countries who depend on Kenya for their transportation of their imports and exports. Another uplifting story of revival of dead capital is our big push investment in the port of Kisumu and the reconditioning of MV Uhuru vessel. To transport fuel prior by road from Kisumu or Eldoret to Uganda took 72 hours because of the long queues at the Malaba border. But to transport fuel from the port of Kisumu to Port Bell in Uganda by ship takes only 12 hours. This means that by the time a tanker makes one trip to Uganda by road, MV Uhuru will have made 6. There is the question of volume. One tanker carries 20,000 liters of fuel, but one wagon aboard MV Uhuru carries 60,000, which is 3 times the size of a tanker. Secondly, for all our customers in Uganda and through to the DRC, issues of losses that used to amount to approximately 10% and issues of adulteration, imeisha. Yeah? To date, we have transported over 80 million liters of fuel across Lake Victoria to Uganda. Mr. Speaker, my administration has set in motion the process of reviving the blue economy. A blue economy strategy is set to reclaim all fish landing sites is in place, and we have set up a Coast Guard to secure our maritime assets, and we have come up with a legal framework that will ensure that all fish caught in Kenyan waters are landed in Kenya. It is worth for Parliament to note that in the 1990s, Kenya used to process 5% of the global loin tuna catch. This was produced by a company known as Wananchi Marine Products Limited, based in Liwatoni and Mombasa. When this company, for reasons, collapsed, Kenya's tuna was extracted by other countries and resold in foreign markets. Inability to export our tuna resources has seen Kenya lose a potential revenue of Kenya shillings 3 trillion since 1982, when the exclusive economic zone was set up by the United Nations. And to revive this dead capital, my administration formed the Kenya Fishing Industries Corporation in 2019 to regulate the exploration of Kenya's maritime and fish products. This corporation took over from the defunct Wananchi Marine Products, and it is in the process of setting up marine landing sites and processing plants in Lamu, Shimoni, and Liwatoni. Once fully operational, the goal is to land 300,000 metric tons of tuna every year and to employ a workforce of approximately 60,000 people. This industry has the potential to rake in for Kenya 200 billion shillings. Overall, as we seek to improve our infrastructure, our commitment to sustainable development is uncompromising. It is the solemn duty of present generations to consciously conserve their natural beauty, ecological splendor, and pristine environment that we received from our forefathers and from generations before them. And this to pass on to future generations in as a good state as we can, unbroken as it was given to us, if not in better condition. In this regard, I note with satisfaction that our Greening Kenya campaign continues to gain momentum, and as a result, approximately 71,794 kilometers squared of our homeland is currently constituted of tree cover, representing 12.12%, while 52.279 kilometers squared of our country is under forest cover, which represents 8.83, up from 6% previously. Mr. Speakers, we are indeed on course to meet our target of 10% forest cover by the year 2024. For trees are without doubt the lungs of our nation. Mr. Speakers, now I turn to the third frame, which I have used to organize the achievement of goals in my administration. I call it the restoration of dignity, and it is a campaign against the three enemies identified by our forefathers, that of ignorance, poverty, and disease. The founding fathers of our nations defined dignity as freedom from want and freedom from fear. They taught us that there is no self-rule where there is no self-worth. And under this frame, I will report on the state of our water, health, education, and security sectors. Where there is no access to clean drinking water, there is no dignity. And that is why my administration prioritized and succeeded in providing 35 million people with access to clean water. When I took office in 2013, our entire country was served by just 99 public boreholes. In the past financial year alone, we have managed to sink 262 public boreholes, and today more than 2,511 public boreholes have been sunk since 2013, a 25-fold increase in the previous number of boreholes. In order to continue this widening of access to clean water, my administration has over the years invested over 200 billion to implement various dams and other integrated community projects that will increase water supply to vulnerable communities. In the Nairobi metropolitan area alone, the project is set to supply 41.3 million liters of water per day to an additional 2.1 million residents. This is critical because the poverty of dignity is most pronounced in water-scarce economies of the informal settlements and in vulnerable communities. For instance, as is known by some members here, the average daily consumption of water per household in informal settlements in Nairobi is 40 liters. If the price of 40 liters is 40 shillings, a household will have to spend 1,200 shillings per month buying water alone. This is 20% of the income of an average family in most of our informal settlements. And for the most part, the price of water has been higher than that of rent. The poverty of dignity is well illustrated when one considers that the price of water for the rest of Nairobi is Kenya shillings 46 per 1,000 litres. Put differently, the dwellers of our informal settlements have been paying 25 times more for water compared to the rest of Nairobi dwellers. And this is why the Nairobi Metropolitan Service has set up 1,600 water points in all our informal settlements to supply free water to the residents. This initiative has saved dwellers of these settlements up to 20% of their incomes and approximately 1,200 shillings per household, and this is what I call freedom from want. Mr. Speaker, one of the most indignifying challenges of our people has been the high cost of health care. There are many testimonies of how families have had to sell ancestral land to cater for high medical bills. This not only rips them of their dignity, but also deprives future generations of ancestral address. The objective of my administration is to end this by providing 100% universal health coverage for essential health services by starting this year. The constitutional right to health care is the element that my administration has been consistently working to fulfill by investing in health facilities, medical equipment, and human resources for health. Our success in this area has been lauded internationally. According to Healthcare Index, which gives a single measure of the state of each country's health system based on data provided by the World Health Organization, Kenya today ranks third behind South Africa and Tunisia among the most improved health systems in Africa in the year 2020. To achieve this, my administration has had to work to increase affordability and availability of healthcare services for all Kenyans. Access speaks to the geographical availability of healthcare facility services, affordability to both the cost of healthcare services and the ability of Kenyans to pay for these medical services. And availability speaks to the extent to which our healthcare facilities have the necessary resources to meet the health needs of Kenyans. In terms of access to health care, when my administration took over in 2013, the number of health facilities across the country stood at 4,430. My administration, in conjunction with county governments, has increased our medical facilities by 43% by building an additional 1,912 new hospitals in the last 8 years. This is an average of 239 new facilities per year. In context, in previous 118 years, only 4,430 hospitals had been built in Kenya, an average of 37 hospitals per year. We have built, during that period, 6 times more hospitals than over all the 4 previous administrations. To increase access to specialized medical services and to decongest Kenyatta National Hospital, my administration has upgraded 2 hospitals to referral status during my term. The upgraded hospitals are the Kenyatta University Teaching Referral Research Hospital and its Integrated Molecular Imaging Center in Nairobi County, and the Kenyatta Hospital Complex in Othaya in Nyeri County. The Othaya Annex is currently serving 8 countries in the central Kenya region. To ensure that access to health care is cascaded to the lowest administrative unit, Level 5 hospitals have also increased by 44%, Level 4 hospitals increased by 9%, Level 3 hospitals by 34%, and Level 2 hospitals increased by 49%. Regarding affordability of health care, my administration has consistently increased the annual allocations to the Ministry of Health. Kenya today has the highest budgetary allocation for health in East Africa, which currently stands at 121.1 billion for the year 2021. Our sizable health budget will be used to expand access to primary health care, services, ensure free maternity care, eliminate user fees for public primary care facilities, and subsidize health insurance for the elderly and people with severe disabilities. My administration has also allocated 900 million as conditional grants to support the implementation of free primary health care in all our 47 counties. The highest allocation in conditional grants was to Rift Valley region at Kenya shillings 247.19 million Kenya shillings. The NHIF Super Cover, launched in July of 2015, is another initiative of my administration to guarantee affordability of healthcare. Through this cover, dialysis patients and cancer patients are able to pay for their treatments locally or abroad where the specific treatment is not available in our country's public hospitals. In the financial year 2019-2021, NHIF managed to pay for 4.4 million hospital visits, covering 1.4 million cases of inpatient and 3 million cases of outpatient services. This in turn saved Kenyan households approximately 54.9 billion in financial losses brought about by health-related issues. With a monthly subscription of Kenya shillings 500, the NHIF Super Cover has become Kenya's largest and most reliable, accessible, and affordable medical insurance cover. Over the last 8 years of my administration, NHIF's membership has steadily grown. So far, the total NHIF membership stands at 10.5 million members, up from just 4 million members in 2013. Mr. Speakers, I acknowledge with appreciation that the National Assembly recently passed the National Hospital Insurance Fund Amendment Bill 2021, and the same is now presently before the Senate. I today urge through you, Mr. Speaker, that the Senate expedite the consideration of this bill so that in the life of this House we can all join in ushering in universal health coverage for all our people. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, let us tear down the barriers that inhibit our quest to deliver quality health care for all Kenyans. To improve the standard of health care facilities, my administration has boosted bed capacity, improved access to medical equipment, and increased the number of medical training schools. In 2013, for example, the total bed capacity in public health facilities stood at 56,000 hospital beds. This has increased by 47% to 82,000 hospital beds in 2020. The northeastern region of our country has experienced the highest expansion in hospital bed capacity, up from 2,443 hospital beds in 2013 to 4,566 hospital beds in 2021. This is followed by the Nyanza region, which has experienced an expansion in bed capacity of 63%, from 9,249 hospital beds in 2013 to 15,054 hospital beds in 2020. Nairobi has also experienced an expansion of 57%, from 7,866 hospital beds in 2013 to 10,399 hospital beds in 2021. Through the Managed Equipment Service project, my administration has supplied 1,241 pieces of specialized medical equipment, with 113 hospitals being equipped in 47 counties at a cost of Kenya shillings 43 billion. In 2013, when I took over, there were only 26 dialysis machines countrywide. Today, that number stands at 603 dialysis machines. These machines have thus far benefited 383,000 patients, and through the NHIF scheme, they have saved Kenyans approximately 2.3 billion Kenya shillings. Similarly, we have increased the number of radiology and imaging machines across the Republic. Using the health insurance scheme, This has benefited 4,534,000 patients and saved Kenyans a total of 47.6 billion. Mr. Speakers, to add another arrow in our agenda on the management of cancer as part of our universal health coverage, about 1 month ago, I presided over the official opening of the Integrated Molecular Imaging Center at the Kenyatta University Referral Hospital. The groundbreaking facility is not just the first of its kind in Kenya, but for the entire sub-Saharan region. As a result, many of our patients suffering from cancer will now have the benefit of early detection, leading to early treatment and cure, and thus saving many, many lives. This will in turn relieve our families of acute financial stress and burden that comes with a cancer diagnosis and the physical and emotional burden that comes along with the management of the disease. Honorable members, regarding medical training, the number of Kenya medical training college campuses has increased from 28 campuses in 2013 to 71 campuses today. This year, the number of graduates of KMTC was 3,319 compared to 111 graduates when I took over in 2013. Similarly, the number of medical doctors trained annually has shot up from 620 in 2013 to 900 medical doctors in 2021. Finally, with regard to health, my administration has prioritized the universal achievement of the right to reproductive health care as required by our Constitution. Indignity takes many forms, and the most violating forms of these indignity takes many forms, and the most violating forms of these that dispossesses mothers, and that is why my administration has committed itself to providing the highest standard of reproductive health through free maternity care. In 2016, my administration introduced the Linda Mama program, which has led to the increase of birth deliveries by skilled providers from 43% to currently 62%. This has also fostered a decline in maternal mortality rates by 26%. Under Linda Mama, all pregnant women are eligible for free maternity health care, and even those women not covered under NHIF, each mother is allocated between 2,500 and Kenya shillings 30,000, depending on whether the birth is normal or by cesarean section. Thus far, Linda Mama has benefited 5.8 million Kenyan women and has saved Kenyans 81.4 billion through the health insurance component of the program. With Linda Mama, I am confident that we can achieve the freedom from want for our vulnerable mothers, and now our children can be born in dignity. On liberating our people from poverty of dignity and making them health assured, a good example is the work of the Nairobi Metropolitan Service. During one of my inspection tours during the COVID period in Mukuru kwa Ruben, I was saddened to learn that 500,000 people were being served by a private health facility which only had 8 beds. A woman giving birth in this facility cannot be admitted for more than 2 hours. In fact, after giving birth, she had to get out in 1 or 2 hours in order to give way for other patients. The only time that she can stay for a day is if she has complications and cannot be transferred immediately by a family member to an alternative facility. This is not a problem. This is not poverty. If this is not poverty of dignity, I don't know what is. To resolve this embarrassment and to enhance access to quality health care for our fellow citizens living in informal settlements, I ordered for the establishment of 15 fully fledged health centers within the Nairobi metropolis. Among them, Mudhua Udhiru Health Center, Tasia Health Center, Gumba Madhare Health Center, Lakisama Health Center, Kayole Soweto Dispensary. Besides the 15 above, construction works are also ongoing in regard to an additional 10 facilities within the metropolis. Mr. Speaker, enabling Kenyans to have decent and affordable homes has been one of the pillars of the Big Four agenda, and the affordable housing program has been, over the last 4 years, my keen intention. We have had problems in passing legislation before this House, but I can happily say that despite this, we have seen an increase in private investment also in the housing sector, amounting to some 2.12 trillion Kenya shillings. And these investments have yielded over 186,000 housing units, a remarkable 43% increase of housing units compared to the year 2013-2017. The general prices of houses have decreased slightly, and we must continue to see what it is that we can do together to increase the amount available in terms of affordable housing. And this will therefore result in many more Kenyans being able to enjoy the dignity and pride that comes with owning a home. To institutionalize this affordable housing program into prosperity, and in partnership with some of our development partners, we have also established the Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company. This financing powerhouse provides long-term, large-scale funding to banks and SACCOs, which in turn avails these funds to home buyers at flexible and affordable interest rates of below 10%. Therefore, the dream of owning a home today is a greater possibility to many more of our fellow citizens than it was 4 years ago. But here, honorable members, there is much more that we can do. Mr. Speaker, food security is another key pillar of the Big Four agenda, and to ensure significant improvement in farm productivity and by enhancing the quality of farm inputs and reducing reliance on rain-fed agriculture. In the last year, we have seen the price of maize meal retailing between Kenya shillings 95 and Kenya shillings 105. However, despite a bumper crop in some parts of our country, due to the poor performance of the short rains in 2020 and the long rains this year, parts of our country have suffered severe drought situations, and as a result, 2.1 million of our fellow citizens are food insecure. The recurrence of drought is a phenomenon that successive administrations have grappled with little success. And even though we have made progress in the mitigation of drought, the progress has not been fast enough. So as part of our state response, we launched an elaborate framework for ending drought emergencies in Kenya. The framework focused on investing in interventions that will build the resilience of all vulnerable households to drought. This included over Kenya shillings 25 billion investments in the foundations of development of such as sustainable peace building, conflict management, water harvesting, and supply, road construction and improvement, education and training, health and nutrition services. In addition, investment in community-based resilience and drought preparedness projects has also been accelerated through the support of the national as well as county governments, as well as our development partners. The aim of this investment is to improve the livelihoods of vulnerable households by diversifying their livelihoods. As we respond to the current drought, we have commenced with a livestock offtake program and initiated support to the affected citizens in a dignified manner through the cash transfer system, which is a cash transfer system of stipends to affected families that replaces the dignity of having to queue for the distribution of food portions. Mr. Speaker, The government will continue to support all vulnerable households and will endeavor to ensure that, notwithstanding the severity of the winds of drought, that no Kenyan will die of hunger. If dignity is freedom from want, accompanied by freedom from fear, then I can confirm to this House that we have done a lot to liberate our people from want, but I also want to underscore that maybe more has to be done to liberate our people from fear, that more has been done to liberate our people from fear, yet very little has been spoken about it. Today, and with your indulgence, speakers, I will go on record in this House as having been the Commander-in-Chief that steered the implementation of the most consequential and ambitious transformation of our security sector. And we did this because my administration appreciated that to have the freedom from fear, our security sector has to be in good form. To give an example, the police-to-population ratio today is at its highest level ever, as prescribed by the UN standard. Our police complement has received an additional 47,000 new recruits who have joined the service from the year 2013 to date. Similarly, over the last 8 years, we have undertaken the most consequential and expansive modernization of our military. And in fact, the reform undertakings in the military are actually unparalleled in our nation's history. We have invested substantially in building new barracks. We have invested in military manufacturing capabilities that have not only resulted in the spurring of previously dormant sectors, but the creation for jobs for young people, both directly and through ancillary services. For the first time in Kenya's history, we are producing our own light weapons and military uniform and other equipment and supplies that were previously imported. We have, as a result, employed over 600 young people in these industries in high-paying, high-skilled jobs and saved our country a lot in foreign exchange. We have achieved knowledge and technology transfer for the growth and anticipated future development. And this is because I am determined to tool and to retool our security forces to the highest standards attainable, and this is the only way we will guarantee freedom from fear for our people and indeed secure our territorial integrity. Mr. Speaker, sir, on territorial integrity, I want to go on record in this House that our forefathers bequeathed us our homeland and nation. The government of Kenya will do everything possible to preserve the territory of this great republic and ensure that generation after generation of Kenyans dwell in it, as it is, in fact, intact and unencumbered. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, as I have said before, not an inch more and not an inch less. Honorable speakers, this aside, I want to say that the health of our security system is not only as good, Honorable speakers, this aside, I want to say that the health of a security system is only as good as the health of its officers. And this is why I have invested in the social welfare of personnel charged with the security of our nation. We have reviewed their remuneration, allowances, benefits, housing and insurance, and we have also increased the capacity of the health facilities used by our security organs. In particular, we have recently established a new Level 4 hospital in Kahawa Garrison, and soon I will be in Isiolo opening another Level 4 hospital. I recently commissioned a trauma and counseling center in Manda in Lamu County, and we shall also be breaking ground on an additional 3 Level 4 hospitals, one in Eldoret for the Defense Forces, one in Roiro for the Prison Services, and one in Bagadi for the National Police Service. The upgrade of the Forces Memorial Hospital to a Level 5 facility is set to begin early next year. And in addition, there is the ongoing construction of the very first Level 6 hospital for the Defense Forces off Waiyaki Way in Nairobi. Our focus on military and police housing will further augment the social support structures that we have prioritized for our disciplined forces. In addition to ongoing initiatives to improve on police housing, the government will later this month, that is me, I'm not the government, but I, will later this month, later in the month of December, break ground for the building of 3,500 houses for our military officers. Mr. Speaker, since I came into office in 2013, we have embarked on a path that has placed human development at our foremost priority. A nation is more than boundaries, borders, and territory. A nation is her people. To judge a nation, one must examine the lives of ordinary citizens and the extent to which they can access basic requirements owed to them, and the quality of this access is what gives them dignity. And the heart of that development of our nation is the development of a dignified citizen. And I believe that education is the gateway to this development, a gateway that tears down inequality. And that is why today I am pleased to report on the gains that we have made in the last 8 years in the sector of education. By the year 2030, our population is expected to be about 63 million. And out of this, about 38% of Kenya's population will be categorized as school-going. This means that 2 out of every 5 Kenyans will be in school. And in order to meet the ever-growing demand of the global landscape, we must prepare the next generation now, today and not tomorrow. And that is why we have been committing each year to channeling a substantial amount of our national budgetary resources to our education sector. In the past financial year, we have ensured that about a quarter of our national budget was allocated to education. And in a call to action endorsed by several heads of state and government at this year's Global Education Summit, that Kenya was privileged to lead alongside the United Kingdom, my administration pledged to allocate 26% of our national expenditure to education in the coming financial year. And this, I believe, is an unachievable target, given that our current apportionment stands slightly less than a quarter. These dedicated funds have allowed us to achieve what was previously thought to be impossible goals. In 2009, the first year of free secondary education witnessed a 66.9% transition from primary to secondary school. But by 2018, we had increased that transition rate to 85.5%, and today we can proudly report that we have secured a true 100% transition rate for 3 successive years in our primary to secondary system. Equally important is to note that we have now achieved the global feat of a 1-to-1 book ratio in all our public primary and secondary schools. This has improved the quality of education and reduced the cost of education on parents. To further ensure that no Kenyan child is left behind, and therefore to effectively enhance the delivery of the compulsory basic education from primary through to secondary school, I am pleased to report to the House that since 2013, we have recruited an additional 107,000 teachers, approximately comprising of 54,775 primary school teachers and 52,453 secondary school teachers. Our enhancement of manpower in these institutions of basic education by over 25% has significantly mitigated the shortage of teachers in the country and in turn bridged the teacher-to-student ratio. Honorable members, ladies and gentlemen, in order to continue with these achievements, we need to secure the entire education ecosystem. We need to ensure that there is adequate infrastructure, comprehensive policy choices, skilled educators, and a healthy learning environment. In support of this, my administration has grown the number of schools at the pre-primary and primary school levels from 3,764 in 2007 to 10,118 in 2021, and we are building an average of over 1,265 schools each year. Additionally, since 2013, the electrification of schools has been a priority, and currently over 90% of schools are connected to the grid. This has led to improved learning outcomes and enhanced utilization of technology, including modern mass media tools in the classroom. Another critical plank is education reforms, is securing the large tenure of our educational institutions. The founding technocrats of our nation did not envision a situation where secure tenure for schools would be an issue in the future. And that is why they never secured the title deed for our schools. But today we know different. Our school titling program, therefore, has become increasingly important. As of 2015, only 4,900 schools had been titled since independence. Today, over 12,000 schools out of a total of 32,354 have been issued with title deeds because of a multi-agency effort. In guaranteeing public schools their titles, my administration has upheld the fundamental right of education and initiated a process to ensure that there is no school sitting on land that it does not own. Yeah. Jaribu kukatakata jameni, hata mimi nimechoka. Honorable Speaker, honorable members, let me conclude my address by speaking about the fourth frame that has guided my administration, and I call it political stabilization, which is the doctrine that guided me to a path of a handshake with the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. Honorable members, undoubtedly, as I have tried to explain, my administration has secured an impressive economic acceleration, including the doubling of our GDP from 4.74 trillion to 11 trillion shillings. We have also made big push investments that have spurred development, revived debt capital, and boosted entrepreneurship. We have also restored dignity to our people through water and sanitation, healthcare, education, roads, and security reforms. However, all of this would amount to very little without political stabilization. If every 5 years, toxic political climate and election time tensions would reverse the the gains painfully secured, our impressive development record of accomplishment would be an immense tower, sadly built on sand but not rock. For the record, political stabilization is not an end in itself. It is a continuous process that every administration, even those that come after me, must apply their minds to and secure. And let me explain. Next month, we will be celebrating 30 years of political pluralism gained following the reintroduction of multi-party politics through the repeal of Section 2A of the former Constitution on the 10th of December, 1991. From the Mulolongo voting system of the KANU era to our vibrant democracy today, we must celebrate the journey that we have taken and the expanded fields of freedom that we enjoy. While undoubtedly multi-party politics has been a much better democratic platform than the single-party state, we must not ignore the very real negative aspects of our politics and electioneering. The evidence of this is plainly observable in the elections of 1992, 97, 2007, 2013, and 2017. And only in 2002, when, well, yours truly surrendered easily, is the only one that did not have a problem. In 1992, the election cost us Kenya shillings 248 billion in lost economic growth. Lives were lost and populations displaced. And during this election, Kenya's foreign direct investment at the time fell by 2/3 from Kenya shillings 1.8 billion to Kenya shillings 600 million. In 2007, the election eroded the equivalent of Kenya shillings 250 billion in lost economic growth in a matter of days. Lives were lost and populations displaced, just as had been the case to a far lesser extent in 1997. In 2017, we lost close to Kenya shillings 1 billion every working hour for the 123 days we held the election. And in fact, in 2017 election, the economy lost approximately 1 trillion in response to that particular electioneering period. And the question I pose, therefore, to the leadership of this country present here today is this: is this right? Is this trajectory the logical path that our country should take? Thank you. And as I have said before, our country has been in a constitutional moment since 2017. The only question is, what should we do with this constitutional moment? If we do not embrace it, how will it return to punish our nation? And if we embrace it, who are the winners and losers of that moment? That, honorable members, is the question before us today. The parliamentary record, as well as history, reflects that during this reporting period, my administration did attempt to resolve the constitutional dilemma facing our country. We went to the people, and 5 million Kenyans agreed to initiate the process of putting the First Amendment to the 2010 Constitution to a vote. The First Amendment, honorable members, was thereafter taken to county assemblies, where it received nearly unanimous endorsement. In this august parliament, the people's elected representative gave the first mandate a clear nod of approval by a margin in excess of 2/3. If indeed, and I speak to those that need to listen to this, if indeed Article 1 of the 2010 Constitution states that all sovereign power rests in the people of Kenya, and can be exercised either directly or through their representatives, the people made their voices heard with regard to the First Amendment. They exercised this power directly through the IEBC petition for constitutional change. They made this petition indirectly through the county assemblies and parliament, and the record of parliament attests to the fact that the people of Kenya wanted a constitutional change, but a few individuals sat down in a back room and they decided otherwise. That said, and this being a house of records, I must record what we lost from the First Amendment, and I am doing this for parliamentary record and for posterity. The first loss was equity in resource allocation. In missing the First Amendment to the 2010 Constitution, Kenya missed the possibility to increase the minimum county allocation from the current 15% to 35%. My administration, as I mentioned earlier, has increased this allocation to 30%, but this only through administrative fiat. But to anchor this goodwill in the Constitution so that devolution is embedded, we wanted a constitutional amendment that was clear and certain. This, honorable members, did not happen. Had this amendment been adopted, counties would have by law received Kenya shillings 562 billion instead of the 316 billion allocated to them in the 2020-21 budget, an increase of over 75% of their current allocation. The second loss, honorable members, from the First Amendment was proportional representation. Proportionality is about the equitable distribution of resources amongst all groups. And on this particular point, I just want to focus on one: gender balance among. The First Amendment to our Constitution would have ensured that 50% of all senators were women. And the logic here was to ensure that if we percolate the proposed 35% of our national revenues to counties, women should be at the center of decision-making on how this revenue is utilized. But, honorable members, this did not happen. The third loss was about expanding our national executive to accommodate a broader face of Kenya and to expand representation. This would have constitutionalized the end of the winner-takes-all outcomes of elections that creates so much toxicity and tension. Again, honorable members, this did not happen. Honorable members, we cannot behave like the proverbial ostrich and bury our heads in the sand. A constitutional moment does not resolve itself simply by being ignored. The need for political stabilization is, I believe, the most urgent task facing Kenyans today. And it is the foundation, upon which our greater justice, fairness, health, wealth, and security will be built on. And for this reason, I want to believe, honorable members, that that which did not happen will happen. Honorable speakers, ladies and gentlemen, I have given an account of my tenure in office for the last 8 years with a focus on the last year. I want to thank all members of Parliament in both houses for their individual and collective contribution to the realization of our legislative agenda. Over this last year, the National Assembly considered and passed 30 bills, while the Senate passed 19 bills, out of which 3 bills have received presidential assent, while 16 others are before the National Assembly. Mr. Speaker, I also note with appreciation that the National Assembly considered and approved 4 sessional papers, 36 statutory instruments, 15 treaties over the past 1 year, including the Economic Partnership Agreement between the Republic of Kenya and the United Kingdom and Northern Ireland. As you are aware, there are a number of critical legislative proposals emanating from the executive which are still pending in Parliament. And to that end, I urge Parliament to expedite and conclude on the legislative process so that we can have those urgently needed pieces of legislation in place. My administration has also submitted the Huduma Bill, which is so far conclusively institutionalized the reforms of the national identity ecosystem through the establishment of the National Integrated Identity Management System. The other seminal legislative proposals include the Political Parties Amendment Bill, the Political Party Membership Regulation, the Government Contracts Bill, the Kenya National Blood Transfusion Bill, the Irrigation Amendment Bill 2021, the Irrigation Amendment Bill, the Kenya National Library Services Bill, the Proceeds of Crime and Anti-Money Laundering Amendment Bill 2021, and once enacted into law, the Proceeds of Crime and Anti-Money Laundering Amendment will enhance the integrity of our financial system by closing the last loopholes in our war against money laundering and other such maneno. This amendment is not in any way expected to erode a key tenet of the legal practice of advocate-client privilege. I, however, note that on Friday this week, Parliament shall proceed to its traditional long recess. To that end, through you, Honourable Speakers, I urge Parliament to consider adjusting its calendar to ensure that all the critical legislation and legal instruments, including those related to elections, are concluded in a timely manner. As we look for the future, honourable members, I see great promise. However, just as I said earlier, we must be bold enough to shape it. In just about 8 years, our National Development Blueprint, Kenya Vision 2030, will have run its course, and with it will come the dawn of the 4th decade of the 21st century. By 2030, Kenya will be home to about 63 million of us. The foundation that successive administrations have built will bear true dividends if we boldly reimagine our futures. But if we go it alone, we might not secure the best opportunities for our children. In my eyes, our best chance as individual African nations is to embrace a continent where there is free movement of persons, goods, services, and capital, as is characterized under the Africa Free Trade Arrangement. This is because, as I have said before, we are not competitors, but rather comrades with a shared dream which will be achieved much faster through collaboration. The Pan-African dream of our founding fathers that inspired the establishment of the Organization of African Unity that transitioned ultimately to the African Union must transcend to being beyond an inspiration. For Kenya to lead towards this course, on assuming the presidency for my 2nd term, I issued a directive that any African wishing to visit Kenya would be eligible to receive a visa at the point of entry. I did this in the full realization that to secure the prosperity of Kenyans, East Africans, and Africans, we must begin, in earnest, to break down the walls that divide and separate us. So, Mr. Speaker, or Mr. Speakers, I challenge Parliament to put in place a legal framework to lead to closer union with our brethren in East Africa and across the continent, and to advocate for shared prosperity, greater fraternity, and greater security in Africa. Mr. Speaker, this intent must, however, be preceded by a solidification of the various regional blocs, and in particular, our own East African community. I say this because the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. When each part appreciates its role and the contribution of other parts, then the body is able to function effectively. The African Union will only be strong and vibrant when our regional blocs are of similar character. We must simultaneously re-energize our common bond as brothers and sisters in East Africa, even as we craft a path to the single African Union. This, Mr. Speaker, is the future that I see, and Mr. Speakers lead this Parliament in tearing down these barriers. So, honorable speakers, honorable members, it is now my high privilege and extreme pleasure to submit to Parliament the following 3 reports as required by the Katiba. A, report on measures taken and progress achieved in the realization of our national values 2020, report on progress made in fulfilling the international obligations of the Republic 2020, and C, report on the state of security of Kenya 2020. I have the pleasure of submitting alongside the constitutionally required reports, the report on the Kenya Business Climate Reforms Milestone Report 2020-21. I submit the report in recognition that micro, small, and medium enterprises remain the lifeblood of our economy, and as I stated earlier, my administration has instituted various reforms over the last years that tore down the barriers that constrain the growth of micro, small, and medium enterprises, enabling these enterprises to seize more opportunities and build back better. In that regard, I commit the reports of the record to the record of Parliament so as to maintain the momentum of the powerful engine that has kept our economy roaring. I thank you all, and may God bless you, and may God bless, preserve, and protect the Republic of Kenya and her people. And now, therefore, I hand over the reports to the Speaker of the Senate and the Speaker of the National Assembly in that order. Asanteni sana.
Okay, order, Senators. Order, members. Honorable Senators, having concluded the only business on today's order paper, the Senate now stands adjourned until tomorrow, Wednesday, 1st December 2021,